Okay. Hello, everybody. Hopefully, it's going live. Welcome to
Hi.
Game and the Gun Show. I'm Tracy. That's Pat driving.
Yes.
Pay
I
attention
just
to the road,
drove.
Pat.
I just drove past the accident. I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh no.
somebody just got hit. You know. Good morning.
That's crazy. I watched one once where I saw someone and I just watched it real time. And then I parked and got out and the guy was stuck. He was screaming. It was awful. It was
You know,
traumatic.
I saw an accident. It was last week, and
Uh huh.
I was probably a minute right after it happened, and I
Ooh.
saw a guy lying on the street with his head like full of blood and gushing, and
Oh,
another guy with water pouring him. I was like, oh my gosh, should I stop? But he's in the middle of the highway,
yeah, right.
and it was scary.
Exactly.
And my heart drops when those things happen. I don't
I
know.
don't do well with blood. I do well in the mom mode. Like
Yeah,
if my kid's bleeding, which has happened, they're all grown now, so I don't have to do that anymore. And I have a doctor, so she can do it. But like the reality is like in the midst of it, you're like, okay, adrenaline, I will take care of it. Whatever thing is broken, but after, if I see the blood, whoop, I'm out. I pass
yeah.
right.
I'm good in the action of it, but afterwards, like, I'm not good at
No,
the gooey stuff.
no,
Like if I see, you know,
nope.
body parts, I'm done. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pass out.
Oh gosh, I know. Same, same, same. Okay,
Yes.
Pat, I had a thought about what I wanted to talk about today because I think it's usually I think that God uses like us to kind of like and other people in our lives to kind of get us to like think about things, process things, to like learn. And so I had this thought this morning, and actually, it came from two different directions. So I was like, "Ooh, I need to talk about this with Pat." And
Okay.
so it was about this idea of from Old Testament. We won't get too biblical, but like they were slaves for 400 years. Moses comes, he rescues them through all these plagues. They go through the desert, and now they're in the desert and they're wandering around, right? And so it's kind of like when you go and you're like from a W 2 to being an entrepreneur, right? Like you set off because a lot of us consider W 2 kind of like slavery slash security, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
somebody else is in charge. You're
Yes.
completely dependent on them, and you don't provide for yourself necessarily. So then you go into this desert and you're just kind of wandering around, and you have to figure crap out, and it's painful, and sometimes it feels like something's a mirage and you like rush towards it and it's not to be, it's not real, and then you have to like find water and you have to find and just like all this idea of like struggle and forward momentum and learning and mistakes, and sometimes this fantasy of going back to slavery, just like the Israelites did, right? They were like to Moses, like, you brought us out here and it's hard. We should just go back to slavery, right? I think entrepreneurs go through that. I know that even after 18 years, and I probably am unemployable at this point, after 18 years, I still have this fantasy of like going back, having a high paying job, and not uh, having to worry about so many things, not like always having like more because owning a business is owning problems. You are
Yes.
constantly
Yes.
solving problems. So that was my thought, and that's what I was thinking. Oh, let's talk about it. Because also one more part of that analogy is the promised land. This whole idea is that I'm leaving slavery to go to the promised land where it's going to be flowing with milk and honey. Like this idea, entrepreneurship, when you start, you're so excited about the possibilities of all the freedom, money, time, right, creativity that you're going to have. And then you have this business and it is not that. It's not that for a long time, right? Some of us ever, right? Some people just stay in the desert. They never get to that part.
Yes.
And so, anyway, that's my analogy. That's a very long story for like, that's what I wanted to talk about, like this fantasy
But
land.
but but it's. I think that's what it is. But I think also, I think the way you see life, you see it different too, because I think we have this dream of being in, on the beach, and having our vacations, and all this
Tahiti.
time. that we
Right.
have. Yes,
We're
exactly.
rich,
Like we have the dream, right?
owners.
But you know, like they always say, the journey is.
Hmm.
If we think about it differently, we say the journey is the dream. Then maybe, like I told the story before, but I was at a conference in Nashville, and I saw an old man. This little old man reminded me of my dad. He was there. He was crying, right? And he was like, "Hey, you know, I have these similar things, right? We have these issues and this challenge."
Hmm.
And the guy on stage was like, "You know," and this is what for me what clicked in my mind in terms of aging and in terms of like the life work that we got to put ourselves through. That we're always working to improve ourselves, right? To the day we die, right? We're always working to improve ourselves.
Well, we
If we're
hope
not
to.
working,
If not,
yeah,
we're
if we're not working, then we are gonna die. Like that's just the way our body works. Like
healthy,
we
we're
always got to
dying.
be,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
If we got to do something, we got to be physical. We got to keep our minds busy. You know, there's so many things out there where it says, "Oh, somebody retired." You know, so many things, right? Including like, you know, I've seen it in even in my life where somebody retired, they're not working, then
Right.
they pass. It's
Right.
just those things where like we gotta keep our bodies and our mind consistently
Sharp.
growing,
Yeah.
and we gotta keep working at it. So
Right.
I think that yes, that is the dream, but I
Hmm.
think also, and I'm redirecting it a little bit because I think you're talking more about just well, working for being an employee and being an entrepreneur. But I
Hmm.
think that it's almost like, and I don't know, and maybe I'm not saying it right. It's almost like when you're a kid and you live with your parents. They're like, oh, I hate all these rules, right?
Right.
And then
Hmm.
you get out and you got to pay rent.
That's
You have
exactly it. Uh-huh.
this real world, real life situation. You're like, oh boy, you know. But
Most
you
of us want to be a kid again and have somebody just take care of everything for us.
exactly. But I think if we understand and change our mindset and say, you know, the struggle is real and we go through it daily, but we pick and choose our struggles, right?
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
do I struggle to be, you know, a 9 to 5er and be under someone else's, or is my struggle not as bad? And then what do we trade for?
Right.
I think it's a mindset thing,
Of
but
course it is. Yeah.
I also think that we need to understand and get together in terms of the bigger pictures. Like maybe our struggles are different in different sectors of business, right?
Mm,
Some business are harder than other, right? And I say that
true. Agree.
coming from the restaurant business.
Yeah.
Like I now choose not to be in the restaurant business because I
Oh,
realize that
same.
I can I can add the same leverage or the same amount of work
Hmm.
and actually get more outcome, you know.
Yes.
Then
Well, and
so
it's about growing, don't you think? I mean, it's about like it's first of all, let's just acknowledge that this is a fantasy. Well, we lost Pat. Well, I think you're still there.
I'm back.
Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
It's a
I was checking my
fantasy,
map.
right? It's a fantasy that it's like the Israelites. It's like, oh, let's just go back to Egypt. It was better. Like, really? Was it better when they were killing your firstborns and children? Was it
Exactly.
better?
Exactly.
Like, was it really better? Or just in the moment? Or like going back to living under your parents' house? Like, there's a reason you left there. It's because it was a pain in the neck and you wanted to be on your own. But you, like, in your mind, it's a fantasy. But here's the thing I really thought about. I just thought that this is normal. Like this is very normal that when you come up against hard things, your natural, your brain is like, go back to safety. And being an entrepreneur is hard. And there's a lot
Exactly.
of things. And so you have to push through. And like again, you've been almost 20 years, I'm 18 plus years. Like the reality is we're not gonna go work for somebody else. We're
Yes.
just not gonna do it. But it's and we're fooling ourselves. We're just fantasizing for a minute, and you have to
Yes.
recognize that there's nothing wrong with you. This is normal. Like that's the thing. It's normal when there's things are hard. You think to yourself, number one, like, oh, maybe I should go do something else. Maybe I should just throw in the towel and move on. Right? Whether you're running a marathon, doing a diet, doing 75 hard, starting a business, continuing to run a business, anytime you come up against any kind of resistance, you think, should I be doing this? Right? I think that's
Yes.
natural.
But there's also a thing where if we do the same thing over and over, we're not getting the results. Then
Yeah.
maybe there's. Give me 1 second. I'm because I'm looking at my direction. Give me 1 second.
Don't look, don't. You can turn off the camera if you need to. But yeah, that's the whole thing too, is that I think challenges come to, number one, make us stronger, and number two, to help us redirect if we need to. So, in other
Yes.
words, like sometimes a change is needed. So, for example, for me, I decided to come down to Charlotte to start over from scratch. Now, that's a
Yes.
radical departure from what I was doing, from where I
Yes.
am. Not only like moving across the country or like south of the, where I was, but then in a place where nobody knows me, where I have no reputation, no connections other than my daughter, my sister, like they're not business connections, and start over with this idea that I could. And right, there's a certain element of like, I'm going to set off and I'm going to do this, and I know I can do it, kind of proving a point to myself, but it's still at times it's going to be realistic to think, why am I doing this? Why did I make this so hard for myself? Was there
But
another
but
option?
but you know, if you here's the thing. This is the way I see it, and this is what I've been going through lately in life too, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Tracy, you doing it.
Oh, I
You are
am
you are in the arena, and
fighting the
at
fight.
least you at least you can say, you know what, I tried. You know, that's
Yeah.
what I had. That's what I wanted to do, and I tried it. And you're not thinking the what if. I think the what if is more dangerous or more of a the fail mentality than let me just try it. Because
Yeah.
does that make sense? Because I think there's more of us that has more fear that would never pull the trigger, would never jump off the cliff, that
True.
would never take the risk
Right.
because of fear.
Yes.
And if we don't take the risk and take the fear aside and just do it, that's what entrepreneurs do. That's what we do.
Correct.
If you don't do it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people can criticize, oh, this is what stops, you know, W2 people from not taking the plunge.
But you know
Because it's
what?
always the what if.
You know what though? I'm dealing with that, and there's a whole bunch of us that work together in Charlotte, which again, I wouldn't have met all these people, I wouldn't have had all this opportunity in Charlotte. But there's one in particular that has this deal, but he just will not pull the trigger. He has the money, he has the deal, he has the strategy, but he's just scared, and he keeps running the numbers and running the numbers and running the numbers. And I think because he's a business owner too, but he's scared to do it, and he's scared because he's risking his livelihood and his money, and that's, I mean, what we do. And we get, this is the thing, because I'm looking at another house for co-living. I think we've shared I want to do co-living in Charlotte, and I want to do it kind of as a collective. But we were looking at some houses, and my partners are definitely more hesitant. They are more risk averse. They want to run every number and then have
Yes.
5 different calculators that are going to project and whatever. Meanwhile, I go see the house and I'm like, let's do it. They're like, well, but this. I'm like, let's do it. We'll figure it out. And that's the difference. And it's hard for me to understand their hesitancy, right? But I have 18 years of doing that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think you and I are so much alike. But at the same time, we need those guys. We need those number crunchers
To pump the
to make sure
brakes.
that we're not, yeah, to make sure that we're not that crazy, right? Like we need
Yes,
to
I
keep that.
know. Well, I'm like napkin math. I'm like, can it
Yeah, me
math
too.
on napkin? Perfect. I'll
Yeah,
figure it out. And I'm married to
yeah,
someone who can fix everything. So, like, for me, I have that in my back pocket. So I don't worry so much about whatever we get, because he either knows somebody or he himself can do it.
yeah.
Whatever it is, let's say with real estate. And I'm
But
resourceful. So I know I
I
can
think
figure it out.
exactly. But you know, it's like when I used to buy properties, I used to be like so freaking scared every single deal that I
Really?
would buy. Oh my gosh, I would be so nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of money getting into it. But as I'm doing it now, it's becoming more regular. You know, like we
It doesn't feel
like
so
you know,
scary. The first
yeah.
one was
Even
scary for me,
but
but the
even though,
last one weren't.
but even to this day, even before we put what you're going to do, we're like, okay, take a deep breath. Let's just do it. You know, let's get a deep breath. Let's just do it. And then, but once you do it enough, I think it becomes, you know, it becomes regular. But even to this day, I still get a little bit nervous. Like before we pull the
Yeah.
trigger on the property, I get a little bit nervous. I'm like, okay, what's going to happen? It
Well,
is getting easier.
but don't you think that's it also could be translated as exciting. I heard somebody say once that butterfly nervousness is also excitement, and your body can't tell the difference between
Yes.
excitement and nervousness. And you're just so I, in my head, I translate it to excited. I'm so excited. I say it out
Okay.
loud when I feel it because I want to be excited about whatever I'm doing. Like I'm going to look at a new space tomorrow and maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Or like I'm
Yeah.
almost done with the funding, so maybe that's going to finish, maybe it won't. Like all these what ifs are
Yes.
exciting, but also scary.
But going back to what you originally said, the difference I think is fear. I think
Yeah.
fear.
Yeah.
People are being okay. I would say fear and uncomfortable. I think people would rather be comfortable than uncomfortable. People are just not used to the unknown and the
Yeah.
uncomfortability, right? And that's a comfort zone that you have to get used to being uncomfortable. You have to get used to
Yes.
going through the daily thing. Like it's just I'm so used to it where it's like I don't care if everything breaks and I'm dirt poor and I'm there having to
Because
scrap
you'll figure
metal and
it out.
drive drive Uber and go work at a restaurant and
Mhm.
bartend. It doesn't matter because at least you know what? I've had a great life, right? I
Yeah.
had a good run. I've tried it, and I'm not stopping. I'm still doing it. I just know that it's going back to the pivot parts. Like every season is different. It's you can't think like when we had our highest point, in terms of
Yep.
entrepreneurship, and we made a lot of money and
Yep.
we live a good life. It was amazing, right? But
Hmm.
then those come and go, and then we have to pivot, and that's why
Yes.
I pivot, from restaurant to salon, chain of
Mhm.
salons to real estate to construction.
Yep.
It's just those things where we have to keep pivoting until we figure out the the right thing for us,
Yeah.
and especially now, like I'll give you my small piece of it. The reason why I pivot to real estate because I love it.
Hmm.
I wanted to pivot to something that I could retire in my older age, right? I was like, okay,
Yes.
if if I
Oh,
can do this as a hobby and I can enjoy it as a hobby,
yep.
I can do this to the day I die, so it's not going to be work anymore, right?
Right.
And,
Right.
and I can do it without, I've always been my own boss for the most part, but without going in and getting a W-2, right? So like,
Yeah.
for example, I was like, if I can flip a house and I can make, let's just say 40,000 a year, right?
Yep.
That's minimum.
Yep.
Okay, you know what? I'll live off of $40,000 a year. I'll be okay with that.
Yep.
That's one
Exactly.
house, right? That's just one house.
That's one house.
Well, if I need to do more, I need to flip 3 houses a year, or I need to flip
Yep.
5 houses a year. I
Yep.
can do that as a hobby and enjoy it, and
Hmm.
not have to, worry about, oh, let me go find a job. That's
Right.
my analogy on it. And I know time nowadays, it is a little bit more challenging. It is what it is. It's just a matter of time. That's
Mhm.
going to come and go. So that is my
It
thought
toughens
on
you
it.
up,
Is
though. It toughens. The thing is if you were in it when it was easy, and then when it gets hard, and you still can make it work, that's the growth, right? I was texting
yes,
Pace this morning, and I was like, it's kind of like a snake when it's shedding its skin. It's itchy and uncomfortable, and it's like scratching in it. But once it's off, it's like there's growth. And that
yes,
is like sometimes we're in the itchy place. The desert is kind of the itchy place. It's the uncomfortable place where we don't know, where we have projections and hopes and dreams. But we have to remember too how far we've come. Like how
yes.
far we've come to turn around and go back now is further than just getting through it, right? And
Yes.
I think business owners, when they take that first step to just step out, that's where they start to build their muscles. Same for me, right? So what I think is no big deal now, to somebody else is a big deal, right? But also when I look ahead at, so I'm in this mentorship, and he's done like $900 million in sales online, and I'm like comparing myself to him. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm a dummy. But like the reality is like he's just had more time. He's been in the internet business since like the 90s. Well, of course
Yes.
he's further ahead. Of
Yes.
course. And again, not that he hasn't made mistakes, but he's learned and he's been along for the journey. And I feel so grateful to be a part of the community to learn from him, just like Pace. Like Pace isn't that long in the business, but like being able to learn and listen to him, and him, because he's where I want to go. Whether it's, do I want to have, a community of 30,000 people, maybe not, right? I don't love people that much, but like, but, but I do think like this idea of being successful and going where he is, and he's still on his journey, right? He
Yeah.
said to me, like I was texting him about this idea this morning, and he's like, that I'm doing the same thing. He's just a bigger snake shedding a bigger skin,
Yeah.
right? Like he's just further along. And we get to decide how quickly we get through the stages and the processes, right? And I think, and I just think, I just wanted to normalize this, like this process. Like, I think I told you, like in Christmas, when I misprojected my Christmas season, we still did amazing for the one store, but not what I thought we were going to do for two stores. And I was just devastated and so upset with myself. Like after 18 years, like I could make such a big mistake. Again, it wasn't the life ending, but the idea that I had just thought, oh, I knew, and that I could be so wrong. I was just so, it was like, what am I even doing? It makes you question everything. But then in the midst of that, and maybe I cry a little, maybe I have a moment, or even so when I wanted to sell my businesses and they were like, you don't bother. And I was like, what? Right? Those moments are for self-reflection and like girding your loins, like, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to figure this out. How do I fix this? Maybe I made a mistake and now I'm in the hole. Okay, so how do I get out of that? Right? It's not sit down and cry and not get out. It's how do I get out of this? And so,
Go ahead. Sorry.
no, you go.
No. I was just thinking because like a lot of those things too. What we do. I was going to use the analogy, but this is maybe for a different one because I'm about to get to my property here. But it's a lot of you can also, you don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? It's a lot of copy and pasting. So it's like if you see the next your competitors or the people that are in similar business that you're in, you can say, what are they doing that I'm not? What are they doing that's successful, that's working that I'm not? And you can basically copy and paste that into your business, and you don't have to reinvent it. So a lot of it is, this is what we do. This is what a lot of us, entrepreneurs do. But like, we don't have to start from scratch. We don't have to reinvent it. Like right now, I'm in the middle of my salon. I have the one location that we have left to reinvent it, right? Like, how can we reinvent this like, we've been in business for 19 years. Are we gonna just let it go, or are we gonna figure it out and reinvent it? So I'm trying to reinvent it somehow. Maybe we can
revitalize
more locations again.
Right? Revitalize. I mean, because you're not starting from scratch. You're just kind of figuring what's working, what's not. What can we do to fix, like to improve it? Like,
exactly.
And sometimes you have to take a minute to step back and observe instead of being in it, right? Sometimes it also helps to have somebody from outside look at it. I do advocate for that because they can see it very differently.
Exactly.
Because we're too in it, right? That's the reality. We are so in it, we can't always see. So like I'll sell.
You're so right. Like.
Yeah. I mean, I had to this week.
It's like what? Yeah.
You go first. Go ahead.
No. I say it's like like coaches. Like they say, even coaches need coaches. Like we
yes.
Need to see it.
Right. Well, I just even this week, I realized because I haven't. So sometimes you go through growing pains too, right? So for example, all came from this point this week. I realized that I haven't been double checking my deposits. So I've got all these locations and I haven't been checking my deposits to make sure it's what is expected for cash. And I have outsourced the bookkeeping. So in the past, when I did the bookkeeping, I would reconcile, okay, for this day, we needed $300 and I would see whether it was off, right? And I would have to log that. But by outsourcing the bookkeeping and not being physically present, not being the one bringing things to the bank, I realized I haven't been checking. So we lost him. So I'm going to keep talking. So I realized that my deposits were way off. And so anyway, long story short, I have to go back to the beginning and teach every staff person how to close my register, how to, you're back. Yay. What I was saying, Pat, is I realized that all my deposits last week were short at both locations. And so because I haven't been paying attention and I don't have the checks and balances in place, I used to be the checks and balances and now I'm not. And so because I outsourced, which is okay, but this is the growing pain, is like, oh my gosh, we were short $170 last week. Well, it's a lot of money. And so I realized, okay, we got to go back to the beginning. I have to put in a process in place. I have to make sure they know how to close the drawer. I have to make sure they're doing it accurately. I have to make sure no tips are being taken until I make sure my drawer is right, yada, yada, yada. But I now have to do that this week because I don't have somebody to delegate that to. But then I also can create that. But I was like, gosh, after 18 years, I have to go back to the beginning with staff. Back to the beginning with.
Do you have them email?
They do.
Do you have them email?
Yep. But again, I'm not paying.
So do they email you with do they email you with the list?
Yes. The to-do list,
we make them email,
deposits,
and then in the email.
And the reports from the day.
So they email the amount. Yes. So they email the amount, and then sometimes they even have to take a picture to say, hey, this is the cash balance.
Because each terminal does its own printout. I can only see on the dashboard, the collective. So I don't know whose drawers what. I don't know. So I'm working them through and I'm trying to figure out the system of how can I do this where there's an automatic checks and balance every day. And that then I can tell them they can take tips. But I also am trying to hunt the thief, right? Either someone's a dummy or somebody's stealing.
Yeah.
And so I have to hunt down who is it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Where's the common denominator? And that was true. And don't you remember learning your bartender was stealing, right? Or not charging or taking tips or this happens. And so, but I'm back to the beginning of it. But I was like, you know what? Before I open 10 stores, I need to know this part, right? Because imagine how much could be missing if I don't have this system in place. So instead of crying about it, I'm just spending the time figuring it out this week.
Yes.
But that's what made me think about it. Like that was what started this whole, like, what the heck am I even doing anymore? Right? This questioning of yourself and what am I doing and why am I doing? And this is nonsense. Do you know, funny fact, that young people don't know the difference between dimes and nickels? They don't know how much a dime is, how much a quarter is.
Yes.
So even though the register will tell them how much change to give, they don't know how to make 87 cents.
Oh my goodness.
So it's totally true. I mean,
well, you could, and I know to be cash counts, and I'm still a cash guy, but or you can just go totally, what you call it, cashless.
I know people get really mad though, but it would solve, because think about this too. When you think about from a business perspective, I'm paying people to count money poorly. So like I'm paying an extra 25 minutes with them of my time and their time on the phone to close the register and to account for everybody's mistakes during the day. Like that's expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so it's kind of like, I don't know how to fix it. I mean, I have had a lot of pushback, but opening new stores, we could go completely cashless. So this isn't a non-issue.
Yes.
All the money's in the bank and that's it. I don't have to worry about going to the bank.
Here's what I have to say about that. Understanding on being on both sides. If you do that, then the bank's going to take all the fees. So that you're going to get that from the transaction fees.
You do.
So,
I mean, you do. At 2.5%, which is terrible, but they take it.
But which is the same amount. If you lose $100 a month on miscommunication or miscalculation, you're going to lose that in just in credit card fees, right?
Yeah.
Transaction fees.
I mean, it's like you got to work it out, but
yes,
the time, effort, energy, teaching people.
Okay. All right, hold on a minute. Yes. Sorry.
Are you in trouble?
What's that?
Are you in trouble?
No. They need the key for me to let them in, and I'm finishing up the Zoom.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're gonna finish.
But she didn't know I was in the Zoom, so she's like.
No, that's okay. All right. So I think. Thank you for doing this on the fly. I think it's important for us to just talk about these things. Like, you are one of my business besties. Everybody, if you don't have one, will be your business besties. But like, the reality is, you need somebody to encourage you to keep going. It doesn't have to be a huge mentorship. It needs to be, though, a community of people who get it, who have been there, who are in it still, who understand, who are crying alongside you when it's really crappy, and celebrating alongside you when it's amazing, right? That's the best part about having business besties. And that's what Pat is for me. So that's why we started this, and that's why we're doing it. You're welcome. I love you, Pat. And I just think, like, it's just funny. God uses time and circumstances to bring people together who speak the same language and need each other. And so I think every business owner needs a person or a group of people. So if you don't have a person, we'll be your people. So anyhow, I think
we're looking for guests. If anybody wants to be our guest, hop on us.
Yes, DM us under the thing if you want to be a guest. We would love to talk to you about your business, give you some exposure, and talk about how you started. I love this idea of ownership and like how you did it and how the bravery it took to start. Right? I love that. Exactly. So yay and yay.
Okay, I gotta go, Tracy. All right, guys,
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.